not only to have that peace of mind about, if something bad were to happen or some emergency comes up, they have that kind of safety net they can fall back on. It also allows those soldiers the ability to focus even more on their unit's mission.
Welcome to the BLUF podcast, where you get the bottom line up front and we won't waste your time.
Welcome back to another episode of the BLUF Line. Again, I am your host, Command Sergeant Major Juan Jimenez, coming at you from Redstone Arsenal. Again, I want to thank all my listeners out there for tuning in. As we continue these episodes, there are much demand for people to come on and get interviewed by myself on the BLUF Line. And again, by popular demand, we were able to bring and would like to talk to you about a program that's near and dear to the Army, to myself, and to a lot of people that have been helped by this program, and it's the Army Emergency Relief Program. I was able to bring on one of our own HHCs, Commander Captain Hunter Wilson, to kind of explain a little bit about the AER program, the Army Emergency Relief, and talk a little bit about himself as we discuss back and forth on how important this program is to us. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Captain Wilson to talk to us a little bit about your background. Sir?
Perfect. First and foremost, thank you so much, Sergeant Major, for this opportunity. My first time being on a podcast, so that's pretty neat. So just wanted to say thank you before I kick it off here. Like you said, my name is Captain Hunter Wilson. I'm an MI officer by trade, and I am the HHC company commander here for Aviation and Missile Command, or AMCOM for short. So I'm coming here from Vicenza, Italy. It was my last duty station, and been here about 4 or 5 months now at Redstone.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast and taking some time. I know you stay pretty busy as the commander for HHC, pretty much for all of Redstone. I know you do, or you extend yourself out a lot to help the team here, and we thank you for that. And, as you explained, you're coming from Vicenza, right? Mm-hmm. I'm coming from Fort Hood. So, I would tell you that, as green suiters, no matter where we go, where we get stationed, it's one of those things that's a team concept. We come together, we make things happen, we accomplish the mission. And thank you for being on the podcast here, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
If you can talk to us a little bit about the AER program and as the officer liaison for this program and how it goes.
Sure. So my official title for this is the AER campaign coordinator for Redstone Arsenal. So myself and First Sergeant Erica Vargas is the other campaign coordinator for Redstone for this year. So we're kind of in charge of making sure this campaign runs smoothly, and really the campaign goal is met for AER. And that stated goal from AER is that 100% of all soldiers across the Army are informed of all of the various benefits that AER can actually give to them, and some of those programs available to soldiers in need. And then the secondary purpose of the campaign is to provide soldiers, as well as anyone else who wishes to, the opportunity to donate to AER as a whole.
Well, sir, I appreciate the information that we're giving out to our podcast listeners. I would tell you that, this podcast it was designed to push out information so that people have another way of seeking out info. Not only the personnel in Redstone Arsenal get the opportunity to listen in, but it goes out and anybody can kind of chime in on this podcast and know and understand that most, if not all, installations have an AER coordinator, or somehow you can get information on how to donate. I would ask, if the personnel around here, how could you donate here on Redstone Arsenal if you were a civilian or a contractor, DOD person, or even a service member, and wanted to be able to donate and really didn't know how could they do that?
Sure. So there's actually a couple different ways you can go about that. So first and foremost being, if you are a active duty military member, you can actually fill out a DA form 4908, which is an allotment form, and turn that into your AER key representative at your unit. And that will allow them to input it in the system and start an allotment straight through my pay from your monthly check. The second way is you can actually turn in, cash check, cashier's check, anything along those lines to that key representative from your unit. And they'll hand it off to either myself or First Sergeant Vargas, and we'll mail those donations into AAR headquarters at the end of each week. And the final way, and what's really cool about this year, is AAR has actually updated their system, and you can now actually donate online. So it's as simple as just Googling donate to Army Emergency Relief, and it'll bring you to the Army Emergency Relief donation page. And you can actually donate online now with a credit card or PayPal or debit card. And you can either do a one-time payment there or set up an automatic payment, whatever works best for you. So it's really cool that they've updated that this year for especially those personnel who aren't necessarily coming into the office. You don't have to come in to hand off that donation. You can do it all through their online forum.
That's outstanding, and like in many other programs or companies that are out there, we're always looking and finding new ways of how we can conduct our business, especially as we went through this COVID pandemic and as we slowly try to inch out of it. We have to think of different ways, and I'm glad the AER program did that and help facilitate opportunity for people to donate easier online or in person if they have to. I would tell you that the AER, the Army Emergency Relief Program, exists to make sure that soldiers at all levels continue to stay focused on their mission and not necessarily have to really be dependent on their financial problems if they fall into some kind of situation. That's why I think it's near and dear to my heart is the AER program, because it helps soldiers help other soldiers out. How important is this program for you, sir?
So it's really a pretty great program. If you don't know, AAR provides interest-free loans or grants or a combination of the two to soldiers in need. And it's really, I mean, kind of to your point, Sergeant, a great system that really allows soldiers not only to have that peace of mind about, if something bad were to happen or some emergency comes up, they have that kind of safety net they can fall back on. It also allows those soldiers the ability to focus even more on their unit's mission or accomplishing, whatever tasks they're assigned, because they have that peace of mind in order to not worry so much about, emergencies that might come up or natural disasters or really a wide variety of situations that can come up. So I would say it's an extremely important program and truly helpful for those that need it and those that use it throughout the Army.
Right. No, most definite, sir. And as we look into it again, the AER programs, it's nonprofit, charitable organization, independent of and closely associated with the United States Army, and it really helps out. I mean, it was founded in 1942, and this organization has continued to help out soldiers. I can tell you that with the 28 years that I've been in the Army, I've seen it help out so many soldiers at different levels. And there are some approvals at, first sergeant commander level, and it goes on up depending on the amount that a service member may need or need help in. I can tell you that, coming out of Fort Hood, I had a couple soldiers that, really got into financial issues when their primary POV or personally owned vehicle broke down on them, and that was their only means of transportation. And the AER program really stepped in to help them out and get them back on with their wheels and able to get back and forth to accomplish what we needed to accomplish. With that being said, sir, I mean, if anybody has any questions about the AER program or needs to contact somebody just to say they're unsure of donating, they want to know that if they donate some money, who is it going to go for, how does it go, or just answer any kind of questions that they may have about the program, who can they contact?
Sure. So they're actually this year they actually put out an exord from the Department of the Army, and that exord actually required every Army installation across the Army to assign a campaign coordinator team for each installation, as well as to assign a AR key rep for each individual unit. And so, no matter where you are in the Army, there should be an AR campaign coordinator at the post that you're at, or at the very least, an AR key rep in the unit that you're at, and that you can go to and talk through any of these questions, as well as, of course, the AER website is very informative, very easy to navigate. So that can definitely answer some more of your questions as well.
No, I mean, I think that's some good information. Like you talked about, sir. Look up the website. You get a lot of information on the AER program. If you're local and really need some information, you can call. Here locally. Like I said, most installations have a local coordinator, or even the tenants have their AER reps that they can reach out to on, making either a one-time donation or a monthly allotment donation, or just go online and donate. So if they were to go online, say they're here at Redstone, want to donate, how can they ensure that they get credit for, or at least the organization here at Redstone would get credit?
Sure. So when you actually go on the online donation portal, there's two separate drop down menus, and one of those menus, forget the exact name on the left side, but on that drop down menu, you would select that you are located at Redstone Arsenal. And then once you select Redstone Arsenal, then the next drop down menu below that should be able to give you your individual unit that you fall under at Redstone. And that goes across the Army, so you can find any post or any unit that's Army affiliated in those drop down menus.
No, you're absolutely right, sir. And like you said, it goes out to all the units of whatever organization you're a part of. You go into that section box and select the organization, and then you go into the unit. And by all means, if you're here and don't have an exact unit, you can go to USAG Redstone and select that as a unit. If you want to make a donation, and you're here on the Redstone area. Other than that, I mean, is there other areas that the AER or some that you might want to cover so people know and understand what the Army Emergency Relief Program does?
Sure. Just going back to a slightly previous point really quick, just wanted to highlight something that you stated about the importance of this program. AER has actually helped over 2 million soldiers since the inception of AER, with approximately $4 billion of assistance. And actually 1 billion of that has been just since 9/11. So I mean, it can't be stated enough. AER is really a great program and has really helped quite a few soldiers over the years, and especially in these last 20 years or so during this time of conflict. But moving into there's quite a broad variety of categories that AER can actually assist with, and they kind of break it down into some main categories. Some of the categories are basic living, privately owned vehicles, medical, unforeseen emergencies, permanent change of station, and then they actually formed a whole new section of categories just last year, specifically geared towards the COVID-19 response. So I won't go through every single category, but just some that I kind of found interesting, as well as might be super helpful for those listening. AER can help with such things like rent, mortgage payments, food, utilities, POV repairs or maintenance, like you were saying from that earlier story you shared, Sergeant Major, child car seats, replacement vehicles if you need it, dental care for dependents, cranial helmets if your dependents need those, emergency travel, funeral expenses, safe travel due to domestic violence. And then, like I was saying, again, they really ramped up their COVID-19 response last year. So anything from childcare assistance to expenses that come from the remote education requirements that a lot of people are seeing over these last year, as well as expenses due to the DoD travel ban that has been in effect. So there's really, a wide, vast areas that they can help you with, and it's a really pretty awesome program.
I agree, sir. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, and also stepping up to the plate and volunteer to help out in pushing this program, the Army Emergency Relief. It's really a hand up for soldiers. as we continue to push forward. It's just soldiers helping soldiers, and by all means, we need you guys' contribution to continue to do that, so that way the warfighter can concentrate on its mission or on their mission, and not have to worry about emergencies that should pop up, because we have people out there helping us out. We have the AER program that help out soldiers in need, and you listed quite a bit of areas that the Army Emergency Relief Program helps out. And I don't know if all our listeners know all those categories that that soldiers can be helped out by the Army Emergency Relief Program if they don't know. So by all means, this is really to get the word out there to everybody, to know and understand a little bit of the Army Emergency Relief Program. Sir, I just want to say thank you for giving us some insight on this program, and kind of pass it over to you for last comments so we can close out our podcast today.
Sure. No, I really appreciate the opportunity to kind of get the word out like this. And I mean, like I was saying before, even, I was surprised by some of these categories that I saw here. I didn't necessarily know that AER covered it. So, if you're a soldier and you are in some sort of unforeseen circumstances where, money is tight, or you might be worried, don't hesitate to reach out to commander or the AR officer on post, because odds are they can help you with whatever you're going through, and they do that through some really great programs. So it's my pleasure to have this opportunity and help AAR keep getting better and continue doing the good work that it does.
Most definitely, sir. Thank you so much. I'll to all our listeners, again, thank you for tuning in. And if you can find it in your hearts to give a little bit, one-time donation or a setup of allotment for a donation, anything helps. And we want to say thank you for tuning in to the BLUF line, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you. So what I'd want to do now is kind of transition into our mailbag segment, which, allows us to kind of dive into certain questions or comments that come in and gives us an opportunity to address them. What I'd like to do is, hand it over to Jonathan so we can kick this mailbag off. What you got, Jonathan?
Well, this week we got a ton of mail about weather closings. They were asking about the process that takes place when the arsenal decides to close. They were wondering what the difference between the arsenal closing and an early release is. And then they were also wondering about what the process is to actually get that information out. Like, where can they go to look and get that information?
Right. No, I mean, I think that's pretty valid. And I say that because, I'm from El Paso, Texas, and we don't get too many tornadoes in that area. We do get some sandstorms, but not tornadoes. So when I came up here with my family, and I knew this was an area that potentially could have tornadoes, and, the 2011 tornado was definitely something I read up on. But it's like, what do you do? Where can you grab information? And how do we go about ensuring that our community workforce here has the right information? And I can tell you that the colonel gets briefs on weather updates, especially when the weather's getting bad. And we get the National Weather Service brief from the Huntsville, and how it's going to impact the areas of our counties. You know what I mean? And what that does, it breaks it down into several areas, and I'll just kind of brush over them to so everybody has an understanding. It talks about, threats of the Redstone area, the timing of those threats, the rainfall totals and expected impacts, and where they stand as far as like enhanced levels. So some of those enhanced categories is either will fall into a marginal, a slight, an enhanced, a moderate, or a high level category, and it kind of gives the colonel and the boss an indicator of where we stand and what we should do for Redstone Arsenal.
So after they take a look at that information, what are they looking at when they decide to close? Like, what is there, like a certain threat level, or is it just what goes into that decision?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that one, we're looking at Redstone Arsenal and the impact that any severe weather threat could be for the installation, and and then we start to look outward and see, Obviously, we got our workforce that lives out there, but we're really looking to see, is this going to impact Redstone Arsenal, and how is it going to impact? And then we start to look at, okay, are people that work on the installation, is there areas that they are living at that will also be impacted too? And, I can tell you that a site like this last one we went through, the message that went out it went like this. It said, ladies and gentlemen, due to the abundance of caution, due to the potential of extreme weather, the senior commander has authorized early release. Early release at 1,200 hours for anything except mission essential personnel, right? That allowed our tenant commanders on the installation to go ahead and make a decision call at their areas of operation, right? I mean, we just wanted to make sure that as the installation, early release was authorized, and it kind of puts the commanders that are also in charge of their tenant organization the ability to say, okay, look, because where we stood was, it wasn't a severe hit or threat at that time to Redstone Arsenal. So I gave the tenant commanders the authority to say, okay, do we have an essential mission that needs to continue to keep going? And because there's no immediate threat on the installation, we can continue to go. And if not, let's look at it. Let's make a good assessment of what's going on. And if we need to, we'll release too as well.
I think some of that got lost in translation when that message went out. I think a lot of people missed the step of that the decision fell on their local leadership to release them or not. And, I get it, but I think people forget sometimes that the mission of the garrison is to keep the garrison open, and which allows all the tenants to do what they do.
What it does, it gives the flexibility for each commander that's in charge of their tenant organization the ability to make an assessment. And with the early release, we essentially are saying, hey, look, if there is not an essential mission going on, you as the commander will decipher that and say, okay, there's not a mission essential. Let's go ahead and early release. Let's see where our people live. If it's an area that may impact, and it's, for instance, further south, and we need to release those people to get home, then the commanders have that ability to make that call, and we're not just shutting it down and not giving no ability for some wiggle room of our tenant commanders. I think when we push out that we're shutting down, a lot of times some gates get closed down. We'll leave one gate open. So we didn't want to do that. So that way, if tenant commands are starting to push people out, the gates are still open, allows people to go ahead and leave, and they don't have to make any adjustments from their normal gate that they leave out of. Of course, the exchange and the commissary, they make their decisions as well. I know they kind of closed down a little bit down the road on that day. We fell under an enhanced weather warning, which meant on the Redstone Arsenal that there was going to be numerous severe storms possible. We weren't getting any tornado indicators for Redstone Arsenal, and that's why it weighs on the decision to either close or early release and leave the tenants the ability to go ahead and make that call.
I kind of wrote a column because there was a lot of confusion surrounding the early release versus closing, and where do I turn and what exactly does that mean? And I kind of ended it abruptly on saying that there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that goes into severe weather around here. And because it's nothing new to anyone who's lived here more than a day, it's nothing new. We're used to tornadoes. We know what we need to do. I get that you don't want to lose a vacation day because you had to go home and make sure your kids were okay, or, right, go home and make sure that you got into your safe space and that your house was fine and all of those things. But I feel like in that moment, when there is a severe threat like that, and just based on what a lot of us have been through before, at the end of the day, that one vacation day is inconsequential. I think it's great that the past 2 times we've had a severe weather threat that the leadership here has said, hey, The first time we're going to close. The second time we're going to give people the opportunity to go home and take care of their business. But at the end of the day, I also think as an individual, you need to be prepared to go home and take care of your business. That means you eat a vacation day, eat a sick day, eat whatever, you eat it, right. But you do what you need to do.
No, I'm with you on that. We are making the best call we can, right? And like you said, one of the first days we closed, the second day it was a lot less, even though it might have looked about the same. But through the National Weather Service of Huntsville, we fell into a lesser category than the first time. So, we decided to go to a early release and give the tenants the opportunity to make that call. But you're right. Personally, I think there has to be an internal risk assessment done at the individual basis and say, hey, look, if you lived in a more severe area, like say down south where it looked a little bit more prominent of it coming through and you feel like you need to go home, by all means, like you said, take that day and I guess if you want to say chalk up that day to get home and make sure everything's safe and secure at the home front, you do that. And people that might have lived up north, where it didn't look like it was going to be any severe weather, they make the judgment call, the individual judgment call to say, well, it's not that bad and I'll just continue going, as long as I'm needed here for a mission essential type of job. And if not, then by all means, if my boss says go home, I'm going home too.
And I think, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but I think when the Arsenal did the early release, I think a lot of people went home anyway. I think NASA sent a lot of people home. The other tenants sent a lot of people home. I know around the garrison, a lot of people were sent home. Right. Essentially, it did the same thing as closing the post, but I think there was just this moment of confusion and trying to figure out how that's going to work.
I think it, like I said, it allowed them to, on that message that was pushed out, it also said all employees should remain in close contact with their direct supervisors to ensure they have their organization's specific release plans, right? So that really allows the supervisors and the tenant commanders to say, okay, is there a mission essential work going on right now? And if there's not, let's go ahead and be safe and send our people home. So like you said, on that day, the majority of people did go home. If there wasn't something mission essential going on, the post was pretty empty by the time I was heading home, and it was right at around 1:30 when I was pushing out, and there was nobody hardly ever on the installation except for key personnel. Obviously our police officers and our guards and our emergency services fire is going to be here to ensure we stay safe. But unless there is an essential mission going on, I didn't see too many people. So
now, one thing we did get a lot of feedback on was people were trying to find information and they didn't exactly know where to go. I sit in the PAO office, mm-hmm. So I kind of get to watch them react and do what they do. But you have a number of channels, right, to go. I would say Facebook and Twitter are probably the best, just from the side of which one is easier to update, where can you get the fastest push out of your information. Facebook and Twitter are two of the best tools that they have. There is the Redstone website, but I believe that day it was having some issues. And so some of that information was lagging and it wasn't updating. And that causes a lot of confusion, and that's a problem, especially when you're dealing with a severe weather threat that's moving in. For people out there, I would say check Facebook first, check Twitter second. They also, the PA office, they're going to push out an email to everyone that's on whatever list they have.
Right. No, and you're absolutely right. That is a good question. Where do I get information? And, for me, it's an opportunity to do a shameless plug-in of my PAO and my IEOC here on Redstone, because as soon as we get something with some inclement weather, where there could possibly be some things to be looking out for, our IEOC will send a weather report out to all .mil emails, and anybody that's working on the installation will get that. Our PAO is quick to push something out on Twitter or on Facebook our Team Redstone Facebook, showing that there is inclement weather or anything that is of big interest that people need to know will be on there. And then of course, we have the Digital Garrison app that is another means of getting information. You go into that app and you should get a warning or a message showing that there's inclement weather. And of course, we're working through some of the issues with the Digital Garrison app, but I can tell you that it's coming on board, and I'm starting to get some of those messages too. So by all means, those are ways of getting that information here locally. If you want current and more inclement weather information, there's a 24/7 hotline that you can call, and it's an 877 number, 863-1462, and that's to the National Weather Service for Huntsville. And you can get straight information like we do from that Huntsville or National Weather Huntsville brief. But we get a lot of those indicators from those places, and you can get the latest information. Another number that you can reach out to if you're interested in some local weather is a 256-890-8503 that will give you local weather too as well. So a lot of ways to reach out and find information, but by all means, we're going to do our best to push out what we got and what we hear and the briefs we get so everybody's well informed, but there are other means as well.
Now, I think this is interesting. When it comes to the information y'all get, it's not like you're sitting there watching the, meteorologists on TV, right?
Right.
It's y'all are getting pretty up to the minute information from the people who do this every day. Yeah. Aren't y'all even in contact with the local EMA and stuff like that?
Yes, we are in contact with the local EMA. We are in contact with the Air Force radar system that gives us updates, along with the National Weather Service as well. But we get all these updates to ensure that we are making the best decision for Redstone and all our community and employees. But I mean, other than that, as we talk about severe weather and as we're leaning into some of these severe weather seasons, I often thought, well, what should I do? A father with my children here and my wife here as well. And I had to Google because I had not been around too many tornadoes. And, I was always asked to, along with the Google reading it, it talked about ensuring that you're ready at the house with flashlights, a radio, candles, those types of things. And we had to really look and make a plan, like where would we go? If there's no shelter right away to get to and it's already hidden. I mean, it's obviously a room that doesn't have windows. We looked at, okay, we're going to grab this mattress and get into the tub right here where there's no window, put the mattress over us for any debris that might follow. We had to make a plan, and I hadn't really done that or had to think about that. But this being here gave us the opportunity to make a plan at the home front, like you talked about, some individual responsibility, and be as prepared as we can, and then also look at some of the local shelters that are around the area.
One of my favorite tips that I forgot who gave this to me, but they said what a lot of people overlook whenever they take shelter and everything is protecting their head. So if you just wear a bike helmet, because I forgot what the percentage was, but like most of the major injuries that cause from someone who's been through a tornado are head injuries.
Right.
And, that's probably when you look at a survivability of injuries, right? You probably want to protect that head. Right. So they were like, yeah, just grab a bike helmet and just throw it on and, it's going to increase your chances.
Yeah, and most definite. And one of our checklists on that, prepare for a severe weather tornado was, I ride motorcycles. So I did put on there, I didn't mention it, but I did put on there, grab the motorcycle helmets and put them on if we're already there and we need to, kind of shelter down or hunker down at the home front. Put on your helmet or a bike helmet, motorcycle helmet, even if you got a skateboard helmet, whatever, to protect your head. And that was along the lines of the mattress as well. But yeah, anything you can do to protect your head, because there could be a lot of flying debris and you don't want to get hit or you don't want to get smacked around and not have something to protect protect your head. But yeah, most definite. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in to the BLUF line. Again, we bring the latest information to you guys, and you reach out to us on something that you might want to hear, or a concern or question you might have, and continue to tune in. And other than that, we'll catch you on our next segment.